What are you sick of people trying to convince you is great? Story 1. Trying to turn my hobby into a business. I crochet for fun because it relaxes me. If you add in trying to figure out how much to charge for a project, dealing with people being unhappy with a high price, and then having to finish projects in a certain amount of time, it is no longer fun. A blanket might take me 2 weeks or 5 years. A small stuffed animal might take me 24 hours or a month. I do it for me, not to make money or hustle. Turning a hobby into a business is a great way to turn something you love into something you hate. That's what happened to me with illustration. It's been years since I made anything. I've tried to go back and draw things from time to time, but the fire isn't there. It's just dead, and I mourn it because I miss creating something, but I just can't do it anymore. Also, nobody's willing to pay what handmade is worth. OMG, that blanket is so gorgeous. Can I buy one from you? Well, the yarn was $20 a skein, and I used 25 skeins, so that's $500 in material costs, and the pattern is pretty complex, so it took me 50 hours at minimum wage, so I can do it for $1,300, but I can get one at Walmart for $15. I'm reminded a lot of this chair when it comes to handmade crafts for sale. There are thousands of hours of work on that chair. If you wanted to commission something like it, it would probably cost in the high 5 figures to low 6 figures, and that would still be underpricing the labor time. In 20 years, when it hits Goodwill, it'll be priced at like $50, and take months to sell, if ever. Maybe you could sell it for $1,000 to someone who really likes cross-stitch and understands the effort that went into it, but never for anywhere near the value of the person hours that went into it. I remember my partner talking about how they wanted to start doing their knitting as a job before we met, and selling it at like craft fairs to try to make actual money. But it was almost impossible because you're not just competing against Walmart, you're competing for the sale against the person next to you who knits while watching TV in the evening and has their stuff priced for barely above the material costs because they just need enough to keep their hobby going, not actually try to live off of it. I saw a lot of people hustling with their woodworking hobby during the pandemic, and now. Only rich people and startups are willing to pay actual money for that live edge black walnut desk. That slab took a year per inch to dry. It was hard to find, and the woodworker had to choose from multiple slabs to find the perfect one, and pay retail for it from the mill/hardwood dealer. Then there were the hours and hours of cleaning it up, flattening it, smoothing it, finishing it, turning it into the desired furniture. The site visit to work with the client and see if they can get it in the door. This is all after the 200-mile round trip to the only hardwood dealer with a selection of slabs, and not the one shop in town that sells mostly power tools and some wood. And hiring 2 or 3 people to help because it's probably a 300-pound table. That 6-person conference table, 15 grand or more, probably 5 to 8K for the wood alone. No, you're not going to find it at Wayfair or even Pottery Barn. If you want bespoke, you're gonna pay for it. My dad has a good amount of trees on his property, so he processes live edge slabs when he has to take one down, and sometimes people will contact him to slab a tree they're taking down on their property. It's hilarious when these people think they're going to get 3 to 5K per slab by putting a handwritten sign in their front yard for advertising. Most of the slabs will have no interesting grain pattern, and you'll be lucky to sell your 2 best cut slabs for even a few hundred each. The rest will rot or become firewood. Well, you have 2 types that overpriced things: people who attach emotional value and vultures. People who attach emotional value set unreasonable prices because they can reason through a price based on their affection for things, and they forget the value of something sitting there doing nothing is $0. Usually they become hoarders. Vultures have no clue what anything is worth and always overcharge because they are only in it to line their pocket. Story 2. To quit the corporate world and start a business. I like my peaceful job. Some people are not meant to be business owners, and I feel like I'm one of those. One of the perks of working at a hospital is that the patients don't follow me home. Nothing does. When I clock out, I'm done. No homework, no work emails, no Zoom meetings, nothing. Work stays at work and I go home, which is exactly how I like it. It's nice to be truly off the clock when you leave. My dad owns an 11-employee small business and it is all-consuming. Definitely this. My dad started a business about 30 years ago and through an insane amount of work, on top of his other full-time job as a firefighter, made it work. That meant he'd get off work at the station at 7 a.m., go home and take a quick shower and immediately turn around so that he could open his shop at 8 a.m. He did fire extinguishers and restaurant fire systems, meaning if a system went off while he was off work, he'd have to go in to reset them. Add to that, his business served roughly a 3-hour radius of where we are. A lot of time spent driving and working later than he would have liked to, and then add to that getting constant phone calls from both employees and customers during dinner or late at night. He sold his business about 8 years ago, but not the building. He gets a rent check from the company that bought it. So even having sold his business, if anything happens to the building, garage doors not working, AC going out, plumbing, etc., he still gets calls because it's his responsibility to fix those issues. He ended up doing well in the long run. He has sacrificed a lot of his time to get where he is. As a business owner, I have seen so many people quit their jobs and lose everything. Even the businesses that are hanging on, a lot of them are in so much debt right now. You're smart. A great example of this is all the restaurants in some form of kitchen nightmares. I believe only one has ever been verifiably successful after Ramsay left. It's an extreme, sure. The show was never really meant to save them, but the fact is there are so many failing businesses that he can make a show of it and never run out of material. And they're the same story again and again. I'm 100K, 200K, 500K, 1 million in debt. It's unbelievable the number of owners featured on that show who had stable jobs and a large retirement nest egg but chose to follow their dream and gamble it all on their own restaurant. Of all the businesses you could have done, you chose to do the one with high capital costs, low profit margins, perishable products, health regulations, high rental costs for the best locations, and subject to the whims of social media, where everyone is a food critic and bad reviews can irreparably harm your business. Story 3. To become a manager. No thanks. I've done that and hated every second of the stress. My job right now is enjoyable. I clock in at 8:30, work really hard until 1, take my lunch, work really hard until 5, and clock out. No stress after hours outside of the occasional, damn, I forgot to do X, Y, or Z. I don't have to get called in to cover someone else. I don't have to worry about what my team members are doing or calling off for. I'm not juggling 45 team members and schedules and paychecks. This isn't to say my job is all sunshine and rainbows. It can be stressful, but nothing at all like what I dealt with when I was managing CNAs at a nursing home. The department manager resigned, 30 headcount total, and I was forced into that role on an interim basis that ended up going 18 months until I eventually left the company. I had to deal with performance reviews, goal setting, coaching and counseling, disciplining screw-ups, staffing/hiring, mandatory leadership training, and literally 6 to 8 hours of meetings every day to talk about work, which left no time to do any work. Oh, and that management role paid less than my IC role. No thanks. As an I/C, I get asked all the time, what is your career path? And am routinely criticized for not trying to move up the organization chart because it shows a lack of motivation. By the way, I work very hard and am universally recognized for being very good at my job. Why do you want to force me to take a role I hate? I love what I do, and you are the benefactor. Don't screw it up. I was a manager for 6 months after being in my current position for 4 years. People pushed me and motivated me to apply for manager. Said I'll be good at it since I know the place and how things are. Always said no. I ended up applying and getting it mainly because of burnout at the time of my current position and short staffing. The way I see jobs is, you don't know a job till you're really in it. So I thought, maybe I would like it. After 3 months, I tried demoting back to my previous, now current position and people talked me out. A month later, got a horrible manager who made the job more stressful and worse. In my current position, I'm annoyed at things sometimes, but never stressed. I clock out and don't think of work until I come back. I like my coworkers and am confident I'm doing a good job and have staffing. While managing, I was constantly thinking about work at home. Started smoking more weed to just calm me down after some days. When I was demoted to my previous position, HR said they would do it, but put me at $1.50 lower than what I made when I had it last. I said do it and get me out of this. I could get by. People ask if I would do it again after 3 years of last time doing it. My response is, I don't care if you were to pay me the most out of any manager here. Still no. Luckily, I never cared about having a title either. I oversee data analysts and data engineers within a healthcare IT department, and I hate how modern corporate structure generally only creates career paths that reward management skills rather than technical knowledge. When manager roles open up in my department, the strong technical team members have the gut reaction of, "I'm doing well and should be recognized, and this manager role is how that happens," and apply. I often have to have talks with them to make sure they understand what that would mean. You no longer get to spend hours a day solving technical problems, i.e. the work they love, and will instead be managing people, which is a different set of tasks and probably not ones they'll enjoy. Sometimes I think they try to convince themselves it will be the same work as before, but they make more money and have people reporting to them that they can delegate to. It won't be. Story 4. Apps for fast food places. Not everything needs its own freaking app, and the food isn't even worth the discount without the hassle. I used the Arby's app to order something. When I got there, they were out of that thing. They offered me cookies instead when the cookies weren't worth what I paid for, and I didn't want to eat cookies for lunch. They said there was no way to refund me because I ordered it through the app. The app gave no support options or even a phone number to call. I ordered through Popeye's app because I had a big order and I figured if I ordered it from home, it would be done by the time I got there about 15 to 20 minutes later. I got there and there was nobody else in the store, but they hadn't even started the order yet. To add insult to injury, 3 different customers came in while I was waiting and ordered at the counter, and they all got their orders before me. I'll never use the app again. I just ran to Safeway for some staple items and they had some listed as digital discount, and apparently that means you need an app to get the discount value. I told them I just wouldn't buy the stuff and they scanned a card to let me get the discount still. My takeaway from the experience is that it's not worth shopping at a store if I need a special app, and I'm way less inclined to even shop there in the future as well. Some guy is planning to file a lawsuit against Safeway, I think, because his nearly blind mother was paying higher prices since she couldn't see the digital coupon QR code, claiming it violated the ADA. I wanted to fund his suit. I hate those things so much. They have this crap at grocery store chains where I am. King Soopers, which is owned by Kroger, except the cell reception in the store is so bad and your phone has to connect to the internet in order to scan the barcode. It ends up being impossible. They have in-store Wi-Fi, but connecting to it is clunky, takes forever, and the Wi-Fi is super slow anyway, and you have to manually connect it every single time you go into the store. It's maddening. Story 5. The removal of the headphone jack from phones. They're doing this to laptops too. Too bad. I was ready to buy the premium laptop, but since it doesn't have the headphone jack, I'll just get something cheaper then. Samsung S8 Plus crew here. I say crew, it's just me. I'm never upgrading to a model that doesn't have a headphone jack. Boggles the mind that they thought this was a good idea. I still have my S8 and keep it just for listening to music, audiobooks and podcasts, etc. There's no SIM card in it, and it only works on Wi-Fi, so I can download what I want. But geez, why does a phone upgrade mean no wired headphones anymore? I can't be trusted not to lose things that have handy cables. I'm never going to manage tiny wireless earbuds. I don't know what BS the Android market got, but iPhones said it was so that they could put more speakers on the bottom of the phone because we definitely need people in public listening to their garbage without headphones louder. But if you look at the bottom left of your iPhone, you'll notice it has fewer speakers than the right side, because they never did anything with the space where the headphone jack used to be. I never wanted Bluetooth headphones because I didn't want one more thing to have to charge and potentially lose, but trying to use the USB-C port for headphones was so awful. It disconnected constantly, and while at the gym I had to keep taking my phone out of my pocket, unplugging and replugging the cord, then restarting the app, only for it to do it again 2 minutes later. I begrudgingly got Bluetooth headphones just to not have to deal with it. The headphone jack used to work so well and I could charge my phone while I was in the car while the aux cable was plugged in. Story 6. The TV shows they watch. SNL. I don't think it's funny. I've laughed maybe one time at one joke or sketch. I've had multiple people sit me down for hours to try to show me clip after clip. They simply aren't funny to me. I've started just saying, I don't really watch TV when pushed on this. It's not true, I do watch some, but rarely more than 1 or 2 episodes of anything a week. I don't look down my nose at anyone for it, or think it makes me superior. It's just how I generally spend my free time. So I don't really want to get into big, have you seen this? What about this? Oh, you have to watch these conversations. I don't mind hearing about what they enjoyed, but I really do not have a lot to add, so I try to set some expectations. I love film though, so I might try to steer towards that. Succession was a big one for me. Seems everybody and their mom loved that. I wanted every character in that show to die a violent death, early on. Why would you want to see something without a single decent person in it? Same for Yellowstone. No, I don't want to see a bunch of macho manly man murderers and apparent sociopaths run a ranch. I mean, that's the point of the show and what makes it so interesting. They're all otherwise flawed and terrible people, but that's what makes them entertaining to watch, and the story so riveting. You may not personally be entertained by that sort of thing, but plenty of people are, and that's why Succession has a huge fan base, and is one of the most highly regarded TV shows of the 21st century. Personally, I found myself attached to the show since Logan Roy reminds me of my father. They're both angry, old, self-made rich men who think they're far more competent than their kids could ever hope to be. My siblings and I, thankfully, aren't as insufferable as any of the Roys. At least I hope we aren't. Story 7. Rat race at work, especially climbing the corporate ladder. I finally allowed myself to abandon the philosophy of having to develop a career to have more and more stress and responsibility, because while working from home 4 days a week sounds incredible on paper, I was miserable and struggling at it. After an ADHD diagnosis, I allowed myself to steer into what my brain likes, and now I deliver packages and make more than I did before. Never been happier. Thank you for sharing this. I'm quitting my current corporate job because I couldn't handle the stress of multitasking in so many roles with my ADHD. I have been feeling so much guilt around this. I want to find a job that I don't have to force myself to do every minute. My spouse wants me to go to work at a factory like he does. The thought of it sounds equivalent to laying down in an open fire pit. I work in food service, bartending, and I absolutely love it. I enjoy talking to people, and they leave having had an enjoyable experience. I leave work happy, having contributed to said positive experience. I don't want to work in a monotonous environment having no joy in my work. The last line of your comment really made me realize this. I think it's more tragic when you meet people who make a dead-end job with zero possibility of progressing into a rat race. Welcome to my current job. I am currently trying to leave. I'm on a very small, underpaid team with no progression prospects, and thanks to an HR mess-up, accidentally saw my team leader's salary, and it's a nose hair above mine. I was horrified, and it's one of the many reasons I now have my first interview lined up next week. ETA, now quite a few people have seen this, I'll add some context for your amusement. The HR mess-up was them putting the wrong pay on my updated contract, which I thought was a small pay raise. What actually happened was they accidentally copied and pasted my team lead's salary onto my contract. Story 8. I'm tired of people trying to convince me that working excessively long hours is the key to success. The hustle culture that glorifies overworking and equates it with dedication and achievement is something I find problematic. With an admittedly small sample size, I have never seen a person with the hustle mindset actually make it to any point of real success. It's almost like that a-hole that's weaving in and out of traffic, but every time you come to a stoplight, they pick the wrong lane and are now 3 to 4 car lengths behind you anyway. And even the ones who seem to be doing okay, not independently wealthy but comfortable, are constantly leveraging their friendships and acquaintances to support their various business enterprises. I get it's tough to run a small business and you're solely responsible for your own marketing, but after a while the friendship feels transactional and mostly beneficial in one direction. Man, I learned that the hard way in my early 20s. Killed myself working at a pizza place, around 60 to 80 hours a week. Eventually I did the math and realized I wasn't making any real money. I loved the job and the hours, but I was getting paid under the table at my normal rate over 40 hours. Eventually, the owner put me in charge of ordering supplies, tracking inventory, and all that. Up till then, I was pretty ignorant and just believed him when he said he couldn't afford to pay more. Seeing what it cost us to make a pizza, what we paid to the corporation for franchising and all that, I was giving my life and not making any financial progress. Up till then, I'd been a really dedicated employee at every job. Since then, I've been a bare minimum. And anytime you want to add a responsibility, you gotta up the pay type. The best part is when those people will get all huffy and puffy when other people don't put the same amount of time and effort into their employment. For some people, work is a job that you trade your time for so that you can live your life. For others, work is life. It's their social outlet and their sense of purpose. There's definitely a difference between being super lazy and unreliable and being a workaholic. Huffy and puffy are accurate. Around 2018 in my grad program, a lot of people were seriously competing who worked on the group project more. While that's fine, the way they said it was very declarative and altruistic-y. Like waking up talking about it in the middle of the workday, during class, after class, all trying to outwork each other. They continued that way upon entering the workforce. It was like whiplash for me when those same people shifted their mindset in 2020 onward. Story 9. Having kids. I know what an irresponsible and unqualified parent I would be, and what a burden and financial headache it is. I don't need further validation or understanding of this life experience. I get it. I don't need clarification or reminders of your beautiful struggles either. Couldn't have put it better myself. My sister had both of her kids in an attempt to save her marriage / make everything better. Now she's divorced. Her new guy is verbally abusive. Both of the kids are messed up by her negligence. Her oldest straight up hates her, and both kids prefer to live with their dad. I know that if she didn't mess her life up, I wouldn't have my 2 beautiful nephews that I love so dearly, but they are both dealing with so much emotional turmoil because of her impulsive decisions. Oh my god, it's so annoying when you tell people you don't want kids, probably couldn't handle kids, or are scared you won't be a good parent and they don't listen to you. It baffles me that you can come right out and say that you don't like / couldn't properly care for children, and people will still pressure you to have them. Like, why is my breeding more important to you than making sure I don't neglect myself or the children I didn't want? I'm also sick of parents who are constantly shoving down everyone's throat how great it is to be a parent, while simultaneously making it sound awful. The next thing you know, they are a few drinks deep and they tell you how much they actually hate it and how much their identity has changed and their marriage is falling apart. Then the next day they go back to chronically posting about the magic of parenting and kids and their perfect marriage and shoving it down your throat when you see them. Parenting is a masterclass in gaslighting and cognitive dissonance. Yeah, I don't want kids either. There's enough on this planet already. It just feels this world is horrible unless you are very wealthy, and they have problems too. Rent or buying a house is astronomically expensive. Food and rent and cars and school costs and other items are constantly increasing, while the minimum wage has been stagnant for decades and at par with a living wage in 1983. $22 is what it should be, and in some states it's still in the single digits. The gap between rich and poor is in line with third world countries in the USA, and only getting wider. Not to mention global warming effects and how that also contributes to mass immigrant migration to the States and other first world countries. Disasters are quadrupled in strength. People are addicted to their phones and social media, and each generation gets more and more selfish, rude, and dumber than the previous one. So, I barely made it to 43. I don't want to throw another human into this mess just out of vanity and the need to be loved and admired. Or even worse, to save a failing marriage, or trap your partner to stay. When anyone asks if I regret having kids, I say no. Do you regret having them? Story 10. Drinking. I work in a restaurant. I can't go out with coworkers without at least 3 people shoving a shot of tequila in my face. I kinda just feel stupid and slow. Never understood the appeal of having my entire next day really freaking suck just for a few hours of being completely unhinged. I'm so glad to see someone else feels this way. I don't get it. I hate the taste and smell of beer and hard alcohol. I only like fruity things like daiquiris or wine coolers. I hate the way people treat me for choosing not to drink. I hate the way people act when they're drunk. I've been called a bad hostess because I wouldn't let others give my 6-month-old puppy beer. I hate how drunk people think they're hilarious. I hate that people do things dumb, mean, or violent things and use the excuse, "I was so drunk." Most of all, I hate the stupid decisions people make while drunk, especially drinking and driving. That's risking lives. Sorry I'm harsh about that, and I'm in a mood. I like a drink here and there, but the same on the shots. I'm not doing them. I don't plan on being so drunk I wake up still drunk. I have been really drunk about 4 times in my life. Always started out with me being somewhere that other people were hammered and joined in because I felt out of place otherwise. The last time it happened, I woke up in a tool shed covered in spiders, soaking wet for some reason, and absolutely freezing. Interesting story, yes, but it was a really bad day and kinda just killed drinking for me. I never developed a liking for most alcoholic drinks, even working with it every day as a server and having to know a bit about it. I like sours and ciders, and that's about it. Most everything else can just not be anywhere near me. Dang, I've never had an experience like that. My only I've been so drunk story is that it was my birthday. I had a crap ton to drink, like 3 huge Long Islands in an hour, plus many others. I was on my way out of the bar when a random woman complimented me and pulled me and my girlfriend back into the bar. We chat a bit and she's super cool. No ulterior motive, nothing weird, bought us both a drink, as if I needed another. She must have chatted with us for 20 minutes about the city and what's been going on and such. It was almost like we were old friends. Turns out, it's Bessie Brandt from Breaking Bad. I didn't watch the show, so I had no idea. I also had no idea she was from my city. Once I start to feel a bit buzzed, I get 1 glass of water for every drink, and then I start to order food, usually fries. Despite that, I don't know how I did not have a hangover the next day. Those Long Islands are about 8 or so shots of booze each. Story 11. Hot weather. I honestly hate nothing more than sweating my balls off just by standing somewhere, let alone walking in the heat. As for sleeping at night, don't get me started. Here in the UK, everyone can't wait for summer, but then everyone moans when it's too hot as we melt away in our beds at night. People in the UK just love moaning about the weather. It's a national pastime. No matter what season it is, the weather is wrong. I often wonder if people in other countries are as obsessed with this topic as we are. Thank you. I grew up in Florida and my ex was from New York, upstate. Loved the 98°/98% humidity environment of Florida. Always wanted me to go and just hang out with him outside. No thanks. Air conditioning is the greatest invention, second only to indoor plumbing. I'll gladly soak up cool air. Thank you. Story 12. What goes around comes around. It doesn't. People treat each other like crap and sail off into the sunset. Karma is a bitch because it convinces people it's real. Don't tread on snails, though. I think most often people believe in karma because that's the way they can tolerate being shat on without a way to clap back. Also, as a defense mechanism for guilt. I recently accidentally did something bad to someone but purposefully lied so I wouldn't be affected by the consequences. I felt guilty with a negative karma, so I started pointing out any other unrelated small bad things as payoffs. Stubbed my toe, I'm paying my debt. Spilled my glass of Coke, at least my karma is going neutral. Having a crappy day doesn't make it okay to do, or have done, morally bad things. Story 13. Weed, 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 weed. Damn, nothing against it, but it doesn't do good things to me. People can't even grasp the concept. They think I just haven't tried the right strain. The right strain for me is no strain. I don't get why people are like this with drugs in general. People are the same with alcohol. People never care how much you're drinking until you tell them no thanks for not drinking. Then they gotta go off about why I should just have 1 drink. You can drink all you want. I'm not gonna try to stop you. Why the hell do you care what I'm putting in my body? It's so weird and invasive. It almost feels threatening. People need to learn to mind their own bodies and that it's not freaking personal if someone doesn't like the same substance as you or would simply prefer to stay sober at that time. People get so weirdly affronted when you say no to their alcohol or weed. I smoked daily for a good 6 years or so, then started reducing the frequency, simply due to work, until it finally just started causing intense paranoia and Parkinson's-like symptoms for me. Haven't been able to enjoy it in at least 10 years, although it's been at least 6 since I last tried it. I don't know if it's growing up and having something to lose. It's illegal in my state, but it causes nothing but intense discomfort for at least 45 minutes. Shame. I do remember a time when it was extremely relaxing and enjoyable. Story 14. Dancing. Every woman I date is super insistent that they will be the ones to get me out of my shell and make me less self-conscious. None of them listen to reason. They think it's total BS. I just don't feel music like that. Dancing is not an urge I get. It is something I can feel deeply. It can change my mood. It never ever makes me feel like dancing. Maybe a head bop and a pumped up feeling, but I've never once danced by myself when I'm alone. I have no reservations about dancing other than the fact that everyone thinks they're doing me a favor by pulling me onto the dance floor so that I can fake something that feels very unnatural for a few songs before going back and sitting down/talking to people. I'm sick of being treated like the shy dweeb and having everyone pity me for how self-conscious they think I am. I'm happy to watch everyone have a good time. You do your thing and I'll do mine. PSA, the absolute worst thing you can do to someone who genuinely tells you that dancing is not something they enjoy is try to force them to do it. It always feels weird. It always sucks. and it's always awkward. You are not the magical secret ingredient that will change someone's perspective on dancing. I don't care who you are. It's not like we've just sat around our whole lives with our thumbs up our asses waiting for that special someone to come along and show us how great dancing can be. Please, just don't be that person. I've gotten super upset and felt super disrespected by people who won't let the trying to convince me to dance thing go. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have posted this comment if people just asked once or twice. It's the people who make the whole night about trying to get you to dance. They pull in other people. They collude to find new ways to get you out there. They want to be the one to give you this intense joy they can't live without. Just think of me as a lesbian and dancing as a big old penis. That looks great for someone else, I want nothing to do with it, and people telling me that I am screwed up for not wanting anything to do with it is kind of getting on my nerves. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a similar story to these that you would like to share with us, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.